The text message from my mother stated, "Darling, please come over at 7. I fixated on those words, my gut tightening with a familiar sense of dread in my 29 years of life. I have typically learned something remarkable from Nina signified adversity concealed under an attractive facade. I am Valerie, the familial mediator, the individual who rescued my brother's unsuccessful business endeavors, settled my father's gambling debts, and restructured the financing my mother's credit cards are maxed out despite her great work and they boast about their finances, yet harbor resentment." I stylishly arrived at their suburban residence at 7:05 p.m. late enough to vex my mother but not sufficiently to provoke one of her outbursts. Via the living room window I observed fleeting movements and muted conversations indicative of a surprise celebration anticipating the moment. I inhaled deeply and pressed the doorbell. The door swung open. Nina stood impeccably groomed as usual. Adorned in her preferred attire, a smile of amazement enveloped me as I entered. With family members emerging around me from various hiding places. Family members emerged around me, their faces resembling sharks encircling their prey. I gasped, practicing the astonished expression I had perfected years of their scheming. "Nothing is too good for my baby," Nina said, enveloped me in a lavender-scented embrace that lingered somewhat too long. Turning 30 is a significant milestone. I am currently 29. Mother. Specifics. Specifics. She gestured dismissively. Edmund dismissively offered Valerie a glass, while my father arrived with notable alacrity, presenting a glass of what appeared to be exceedingly costly scotch. "Here you are, Princess." My brother Jasper stood uncomfortably, aware that I had never favored scotch by the fireplace. Evading eye contact, I observed a document that appeared to be legal in nature. A document was prominently positioned on the coffee table, its corner protruding from beneath a magazine. "Come sit," Nina urged. I approached the couch. "Everyone is present to honor you." I surveyed the room. Aunt Margaret, Uncle Pete, and cousins I had not seen in years all donned identical attire. Artificial smiles, the sole authentic visage belonged to my dearest pal, Reagan, who seemingly became involved in this situation. She captured my attention and raised an eyebrow slightly before we proceeded to cut the cake. It was declared that we would commence with the gifts, beginning with the largest. Edmund interjected, shifting the magazine to disclose the document elicited a quickening of my heart rate. Yet I sustained my smile. "What is this?" "Oh, nothing, some tedious documentation regarding Grandma Sophia's inheritance." It was dismissed too nonchalantly, indicating little cause for concern this evening. "We will address it later." "But I have already obtained the title inheritance," I suggested, reviewing the document. "We are acquiring now that everyone is present." Nark's smile briefly wavered. No, dear, let us, Edmund. Please prioritize enjoyment. Everyone, including Mom, is aware of my preference for champagne. Prioritize business over pleasure." I began to open the folder, observing her expression intently. Val reacted sharply. Suddenly, she promptly changed her tone, stating, "It's your party, don't you wish to enjoy it?" Suddenly, he suggested that we should refrain from proceeding. Nina interrupted him abruptly, and I remained silent with the document in hand. What precisely am I observing here? The room also fell silent. Nina and Edmund exchanged silent glances, and I could almost perceive the post-meridian mechanisms of thought at work reassessing their strategy. "It is really a formality," Edmund stated. "There is a non-urgent matter about Grandma's estate that the lawyers require, therefore." "Why is it present at my location?" Nina emitted a high-pitched, nervous chuckle, questioning the reason for your behavior. "Suspicious. Darling, can we not simply celebrate?" I surveyed the room, observing the faces scrutinizing this interaction like a tennis match. My family, who ought to have been my staunchest supporters, instead perceived me as their adversary. Personal ATM. And in the corner, Reagan was discreetly trembling her. "Of course. We can rejoice," I stated, finally placing the document down. "I will maintain my focus on it. But initially, I believe we should deliberate on the true purpose of your gathering everyone here this evening." The ensuing silence was overwhelming. Nina's perfect smile faltered slightly, revealing the despair beneath at that moment. She realized that the contents of this folder would alter everything. Valerie dear. She commenced as I reached for the document. I aimed to avoid causing a disturbance and drew it closer to my heart with a firm voice. I said, "Oh Mom. I believe it is somewhat late for that toast." Edmund's voice resonated across the room, urgently attempting to alleviate the tension directed at my lovely daughter, who has consistently demonstrated practicality regarding these matters. As I observed him elevate his glass, observing the tiny tremor in his fingers, the document weighed heavily in my lap as everyone uniformly raised their drinks were offered to Valerie, their words resonating as a hollow chorus. While Nina intervened with practiced grace, she placed a dish of my purported favorite cake, chocolate with buttercream frosting, in front of me. Allergic to dairy. "Love," she purred. "Why don't we indulge ourselves first? The paperwork can be deferred." I expressed my interest upon opening the folder at this moment. Jasper unexpectedly materialized beside me. Perhaps indicating Mom's presence, Reagan interjected from across the room, stating, "Let us read it aloud." "It is all a formality," I flashed her a glance that could freeze hell. And I cleared. I, Valerie, hereby freely relinquish all rights regarding the inheritance bequeathed by Sophia Olin. My voice faltered as I perused the remainder of the document. "You wish for me to endorse my entire inheritance was not simply redistributed by Edmund for tax purposes." I laughed, however. There was no humor in it. "Both you and Mom observed Aunt Margaret's unusual fascination in her wine glass." While Uncle Pete glanced at his phone, the cousin moved uneasily, asserting, "We are family." Her voice imbued with shame and emotion. The tone she had refined over the years is that everything we possess is communal. "You understand." Such as when you disclosed the funds I provided for Jasper's startup, or when you revealed the truth regarding Dad's situation. The atmosphere became excruciatingly silent due to gambling debts, she retorted. "That's not the case. The facade is faltering. We are your parents and have provided you with everything." "No," I corrected her, "you have appropriated everything. And now you seek Grandma's inheritance as well." Jasper advanced. "Val. Please sign it, they will not cease unless you do." "Is that the reason for your presence here?" Jasper. To persuade me that he was unable to meet my gaze, they suggested it would be more effective if I conveyed the message myself. Naturally, I complied. I remained standing, still grasping the document. "How long have you?" Everyone has been strategizing, anticipating the ideal moment to ambush me. "No one is unaware ambushing anyone," Edmund protested feebly. "We are celebrating you. My birthday is next month, nonetheless." My composure has further deteriorated. "Please sign the document." Valerie, cease being so obstinate. I found it amusing once more. This time it emerged quite hysterical. "Is that what you refer to as resisting manipulation?" Ungrateful little Nina found herself forcing another grin. "Dear, you are causing discomfort among everyone." "Excellent." I turned to face the room. "Were you all aware of this? Were you all complicit?" The silence was a sufficient response. Reagan rose to his feet. "I was unaware. And this is repugnant. Refrain from involvement, as this pertains to family matters." I derided the notion of this group being termed a business family, as they are only enablers and conspirators, prompting Edmund to advance, utilizing his authoritative paternal tone. He stated, "Princess, your mother and I have deliberated on this matter extensively. It is for the best." "For whom?" "Father." "You are mistaken, that is sufficient." "No, it is not." I approached the fireplace, clutching the document, and expressed my thoughts regarding this arrangement. Nark's eyes widened. "Don't you dare," I asserted, gripping the corner of the observing the flames as they ignited. "I believe it deserves to burn in hell." "You foolish girl." No yelled while lunging forward. "Do you comprehend the consequences of your actions?" I allowed the conflagration. "The paper has fallen into the fireplace. I am fully aware of my actions. I am finished with this." Edmund weakly threatened. "Your personal bank account copies," I responded, collecting my handbag to retain them as mementos of the day your scheme faltered. While Reagan was already beside me with keys in hand, Letton proceeded towards the door when Jasper yelled out, "Val, wait. If I severed communication with him, you may inform them about Grandma's video message." "The one they are unaware of?" and the expression of astonishment it elicited Nina's expression nearly justified the entire evening. Akin to the video she insisted upon. What is she? I stood at the entrance, relishing the moment. I suppose you will discover my birthday is approaching. Happy early birthday to me. You should have observed Nina's expression when you referenced the video. Reagan found it amusing as she pushed a mug of coffee across the kitchen counter. I anticipated an explosion. It was nearly midnight. The excitement from earlier was slowly dissipating, and I clasped my hands over the warm cup in an attempt to steady them in disbelief. I remarked that I could not fathom their attempt to execute this. Yet I conceded that I could indeed believe it. What is in this video that caused your mother to appear as though she had encountered a specter? I retrieved my phone and accessed a file labeled Grandma. Sophia transmitted this to me via her attorney 2 days prior to her demise. As Reagan inched closer as I applied pressure, the television displayed my grandmother's face. Her silver hair impeccably combed even from her hospital bed. My beloved Valerie's familiar voice crackled across the speaker. If you're watching, I have already departed. And if I am familiar with your mother, which I regrettably am, she is already attempting to acquire what I have bequeathed to you, murmured Reagan reverently. I remarked, increasing the volume. Observing how they have exploited you throughout the years. Grandma Sophia added. Way they have depleted you both financially and emotionally. Nina exhibited similar behavior towards me, perpetually receiving without reciprocating. Hence, I have established specific boundaries. The video progressed as my grandmother elaborated about her plans regarding Reagan. Your eyes widened with each revelation. Your grandmother was a genius, she remarked when the video concluded. She was an incredible genius, possessing a deeper understanding of them than they had of themselves. I took a drink of coffee. But, I must now determine my subsequent action. My phone vibrated with another message from "We must discuss your previous statement. Please contact me quickly. Do not delay." Cautioned against observing my fixation on the message. It is really another deception instead of calling her. I began composing a response. All communication is conducted through this medium. Linda, henceforth referred to as the family lawyer and Grandma's attorney, has been amended. My new best ally and I are scheduled to meet tomorrow morning. As Reagan reclined, I am studying differently tonight. I feel stronger. Although I am fatigued, I expressed my weariness of being in that situation, exasperated by the deception. I was approached by my father last month to co-sign a loan for him. Please inform me that you did not pursue the business endeavor. I nearly did. But then I discovered something. It was for a poker tournament in Las Vegas. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Jasper, indicating they are losing control here. Mom, regarding the contestation of the will. Which video were you referencing about your brother's outreach that Reagan observed? My new phone is likely being used for their ulterior motives. Again, inform mother to conserve her energy, since it may be required. Cryptic. Reagan agreed. Another message appeared, this time from an unidentified number. Linda, may we reschedule our meeting to 8 a.m.? Situations are intensifying more rapidly than I anticipated that Reagan would observe the message. Even Linda is aware that they will attempt it. What do you believe they will do? Considering Nina's knowledge of everything, I responded to Linda, affirming the previously fabricated meeting time. She attempted to manipulate me into financing her spa retreat by feigning a heart attack. I refused. The emergency room revealed that she was at the Beverly Hills Hotel. Reagan expressed her disbelief, questioning the certainty of the plan, emphasizing that once initiated, there would be no turning back. Film once more, listening to my grandmother's last words. Remember, darling, sometimes the most compassionate act you can offer, one of the most beneficial actions you can take for someone, is to cease enabling them. You possess greater strength than you realize. Compel them to recognize this. I am confident I mentioned this previously. The video for once in my life confirmed that my phone illuminated with another notification, a deluge of texts from Nina, Edmund, and even Aunt Margaret attempting to engage. The mediator silenced everyone. Reagan has provided you a place to stay tonight. I must be alone, thank you. But I need to return home and prepare for tomorrow. I have stood up. I must organize years of financial documents before my meeting. Linda requested my presence at the meeting. I embraced her tightly, expressing my refusal. I must undertake this task independently. But please keep your phone on. I have a premonition that tomorrow will be significant. As I drove home, my grandmother's words resonated in my mind. For years, I had been their safeguard. Their bank serves as their emotional outlet, yet, due to Sophia's thoughtfulness, I possessed the capacity to alter everything. My phone vibrated one last time with another message. Regardless of your plans, exercise caution. Jasper. You are aware of the circumstances. I was aware. And for the first time, that awareness did not instill in me a sense of dread. Instead, I experienced a novel expectation. Linda's office exuded a distinct atmosphere, fortress of mahogany and legend. Degrees. At precisely 8 a.m. she shut. I checked the door behind me twice to confirm it was locked. When your mother called, she stated, seated behind her desk, that your father attempted to visit my residence 17 times last night. Which seems accurate. I placed my folder of financial data on her desk. Did they threaten you? No. Linda's lips curved into a slight smile as she appeared to attempt to terminate my employment. I had forgotten that I was your grandmother's attorney, not hers. Classic Nina. I leaned forward and asked, what is our next step? Linda extracted a substantial file. Your grandmother was scrupulous in her. She was aware of her parents' intentions. The video message was merely the commencement. Was it not? Sophia taped that film as a safeguard. But the true protection lies in the rules of the inheritance, which Linda accessed. I have not yet watched the complete film. I have only viewed the initial few minutes. I immediately resumed the video on my phone from the point where I had paused, revealing Grandma Sophia's face. Valère. My love, I have structured the legacy in a more serious manner than before. In a manner that renders it inaccessible to Nina or Edmund. Even via your intervention, every cent is secured within a trust under appropriate conditions. Linda paused the film. This is where it becomes intriguing. The conditions I mentioned are those established by your grandmother, which specify that the funds may only be utilized for 3 purposes: individual living expenditures and philanthropic contributions to accredited organizations or investment in enterprises unrelated to one's family members. Left me astonished by her perception. Linda hit play again, indicating that there is more to everything, particularly concerning the family. Efforts to challenge these conditions persisted with Grandma Sophia, or if they attempted to do so to coerce you into sharing the inheritance. A clause is triggered that automatically allocates 50% of the total, the sum donated, to charity. Oh my God, I murmured. Your grandma was very remarkable. Linda provided comprehensive instructions for the management of your family's unavoidable circumstances. While pausing the video, the reaction will be nuclear upon discovering the exact reason. Which is why we must. Linda retrieved another document I had created. A formal letter defining the terms. We will dispatch it to them today. They will attempt to contest it. As shown by Linda's face, they have become resolute, yet, the more they contend, the more the financial contributions to charity, which is lawful. My phone buzzed with an ironclad notification from Nina, which I promptly displayed to Linda. The timing was impeccable. Instructed Letton to provide them with a preview. I responded on speakerphone. Hello. Hello. Mommy? Your voice filled the room. Where are you? We need to discuss your behavior from last night. Linda is currently on a pause. She is on speakerphone. As stated by Linda. Linda, I demand to know what absurdities you have been communicating to my daughter. Sophia's whole will be sent to you today. As Linda responded, a comprehensive elucidation of the trust conditions, specifically regarding the trust conditions of Nark's voice, rose, and an octave. What are the trust conditions? The arrangements established by Grandma Sophia render it difficult for you or Dad to access this money. Absurd. I am her mother, I possess rights. However, Linda interjected, stating that you do not. Any effort to dispute these conditions will lead to an automatic charity contribution of 50% of the inheritance. The stillness on the other end was overwhelming. Mom, I urged, your grandmother's vengeance. Is it? Nark's voice became frigid. She always was a malicious elderly woman. No, mother, this is her safeguard for me. Protection. She chuckled resentfully over the response from your own family. I advised you to verify your assertions. An email will be sent within an hour, detailing everything in the letter. Valerie, do not proceed. I concluded the call as stated proceeded as anticipated. Now we await their receipt of the letter. After which she presented me with a USB disk that has all the items your grandma wished for you to possess. including financial information and personal documents, messages indicating previous loans and manipulations. Evidence indicates that Sophia meticulously documented each instance of their exploitation of you, each loan, every guilt trip, every plot. Linda's gaze locked with mine, conveying her desire for you. I own evidence should you ever question your abilities. I grasped the USB drive. Sensing its heft in my hand, Linda stood up, demonstrating that she had indeed considered every aspect. Are you prepared for what follows? Once they receive that letter, I am ready, I stated, standing as well. This is the first occasion in my life that I am prepared. 3 days after Linda dispatched the letter, Nina arrived at my workplace, and I observed through the glass walls as she captivated her way past reception, adorned in her finest attire in a fine outfit and carrying what appeared to be lunch from my preferred restaurant. She inhaled deeply. Before I could intervene, I procured your preferred mushroom risotto. I am allergic to mushrooms, as I have always been. My mother waved dismissively while placing the bag down. Oh. Is that so? Well. No. We must discuss all that was articulated in Linda's letter regarding that. She positioned herself on the edge of my desk. Your father and I have been contemplating if we may have all overreacted. While I continued typing on my keyboard, we acknowledge your distress and recognize that we could have managed the situation differently at the celebration. She attempted to grasp my hand, but I withdrew. However, we can undoubtedly seek a compromise, yet there is no compromise as the terms are unequivocal. Terms can be modified, and laws can be amended. Ultimately, I gazed at her. Challenging the terms leads to half of the inheritance being allocated to charity. Is that sufficiently clear for you? Valerie's voice assumed that familiar edge, reminiscent of when your parents addressed things with difficulty. All we have done has been for you. My phone buzzed with a text from Jasper indicating that his mother is present. Isn't she? Dad sent her. I pulled out my phone, displaying years of banking information. Was it the unauthorized credit card applications in my name or the coercion to cover Jasper's expenses that constituted the transfers for me? She stated rigidly. Is that what you refer to as failed restaurants helping family? Retrieved other records? Similar to when you informed me that Dad required funds for surgery. But the money was, in fact, allocated to his bookmaker. Her expression hardened. You have been monitoring us, actually. Grandma Sophia did. She maintained meticulous records. Receipt. Every bank statement. Every death. And the desperate voicemail you left me requesting your grandmother did not catch herself messing with money. Comprehend our familial dynamics. I found it amusing that I occupy the role of. Nina stood up, adjusting her skirt. As the perpetual withdrawer at the ATM, I observe that you are not in a rational state today, yet. Consider this thoughtfully. Dear, do you genuinely wish to obliterate our family over financial matters? You previously did that, Mom? Years ago. Do not be theatrical. She withdrew an envelope from her purse that contained the revised agreement that your father had our lawyer prepare. A matter that advantages all. I refrained from handling the envelope. Did you fail to comprehend the letter? Any endeavor to evading Grandma's requests activates the charity clause unless you provide voluntary. She beamed triumphantly, asserting that we had discovered a loophole. However, I contended that no such loopholes exist. Activated the intercom. Security. Please escort an individual out. You are ungrateful. She momentarily paused as 2 security guards approached, prompting Valerie to reflect. I have been engaged with my computer for years. Farewell, Mom. This is not concluded, she declared as the guards escorted her away. Your father will contact you. My phone vibrated one more. I inquired. Jasper. How severe was it? I received a response indicating she brought mushrooms. Roto. You are allergic to mushrooms. Another message has been received regarding this. Let us debate this matter over dinner tonight. At your discretion. I presented the text to Reagan, who had been silently observing from the corner of my office. They are not providing. She inquired if they were up. The response was negative. But their desperation is increasing. I have forwarded Edmund's message to Linda indicating that they will What is your subsequent action? I have intervened. I will schedule supper with my father. But it will be on my terms. I am indeed composing a response to Edmund, as it is essential for him to understand my position. The frightened little girl is no longer present. as Linda and I have devised a strategy. I grinned, inquiring about the nature of that plan, recalling the USB's contents. It is evident that Grandma Sophia bequeathed me more than mere financial assets. She imparted invaluable memories. The reality of their actions will be revealed. And tomorrow evening, Father will receive a preview exercise caution. Reagan cautioned, cornered creatures are the most perilous. I am aware, gazed at the family photograph on my desk. Captured years ago before I comprehended their significance. But I have finished exercising caution. It is time to exhibit courage. My phone illuminated with Edmund's response, "Wonderful. Princess. Specify the location." I responded with the Capitol Grill at 7 p.m. Attend alone. I added, "And Father does not. There is no need to bring any documents this time, as I possess an ample supply to distribute." The Capitol Grill was suited to Edmund's preferences, costly enough to confer a sense of importance, yet featuring secluded booths ideal for conducting business. I arrived 15 minutes early to put up my laptop and organize the materials prepared by Linda. He entered precisely at 7 p.m. wearing his fortunate negotiation tie. "Princess. You are delightful." "Hello, Dad." I did not. He stood for his customary embrace, but his smile diminished slightly upon noticing my laptop. I believed we might simply enjoy a pleasant meal together. Father and daughter. Immediately following our discussion shortly thereafter, the waiter arrived, and Edmund placed his customary order for scotch. I requested double water. Emphasizing my need to be clear-headed and serious, he chuckled uneasily. "You are aware that your mother was somewhat distressed following your meeting today. Was she upset about something specific, delivering food to me that I am allergic to, or attempting to bypass Grandma's desires?" He shuffled uneasily. "I have been contemplating. Allow me to interrupt you." As I had already opened my laptop prior, continue. "There is something you must observe." "Valerie. Please." "May we simply recall last year when you stated that you required $50,000 for emergency gallbladder surgery?" His complexion drained at that remark. Deeming it obsolete, I directed the laptop towards him, displaying a sequence of bank transfers. "It is amusing how these transfers align precisely with your bookmaker payment schedule. How did your Grandma Sophia maintain her records?" I retrieved more documents, such as the loan for Jasper's third restaurant, which inadvertently ended up in your possession. An offshore account constitutes private information. "No, Dad. That is not the case." "Fraud. I arranged other documents similar to the credit cards that you and Mother opened my name during my college years." Was Edmund. His fingers trembled when he grabbed for his scotch. "As we were safeguarding you utilized credit to its maximum limit, resulting in a debt that we subsequently repaid. I threatened to contact the police." I retrieved another file. "Should we discuss the matter? The mortgage payments I made on your house, which you claimed were temporary, have inexplicably become permanent." He struck his hand on the table, causing the glasses to clatter and several heads to turn in our direction. "You are correct," I replied calmly. "It is sufficient, so." "Your grandmother established those stipulations, a cunning elderly woman who observed precisely what you and Mother were doing to me." I repositioned the laptop. "Who bequeathed me all necessary evidence?" Edmund's expression underwent a succession amidst emotions of rage, fear, and calculation. He ultimately reached a resolution in his negotiation. Smile. "Prince, surely we can reach an agreement. As family assists family, recall that this is precisely what Mother stated today. As it is true that all our actions were undertaken for your benefit, I made one final effort, the document. Like when you procured a life insurance policy on me without my consent." Caused the color to drain from his face. I cannot elucidate further. I have shut the laptop. "Here is what will transpire. You and Mom will cease attempting to circumvent Grandma's conditions. There will be no more surprise visits, no more legal loopholes, no more guilt traps, or the purpose of these documents." I met Linda's gaze, already prepared. In the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, the package caused him to sit back, dejected. "You would do it to your own father. You are responsible for this. Dad, both you and Mom. The way to rectify the situation is to fulfill our instructions." Edmund dismissed him, stating, "I have lost my appetite." He added, "That's acceptable, I still have mine." I initiated the packing of my belongings in preparation for dinner plans with Reagan. I am contributing 20% of the inheritance to programs addressing gambling addiction. Consider it your donation. Nina would never accept this societal norm. She lacks the option to do so. I also did not stand up as I began to depart. He yelled out, "We are still your parents." I glanced back upon observing him. I no longer perceived the formidable presence of my boyhood, but rather a desperate individual who had forfeited his final opportunity for enjoyment. Indeed. You are. I remarked gently. This is what renders the situation so sorrowful. As I exited the restaurant, I texted Linda that it is completed, Dad is aware. Her response was prompt. Nina has already called. Are you prepared for tomorrow? I have contemplated the final phase of our strategy. Specifically the family meeting. Everything will culminate. I am as prepared as I will ever be. I responded, inquiring if the video setup was ready. To which I was informed that everything is in place. Scheduled for tomorrow at 2 p.m. They will all discover just what Sophia had intended. I entered my car and observed Edmund still seated in the restaurant. Gazing into his empty Scotch glass, I texted Linda to arrange a meeting tomorrow to conclude this matter definitively. Linda's conference room seemed more confined with my entire family around. Nina sat straight at one end of the table, while Edmund collapsed next to her, still nursing a hangover from the previous night. Jasper selected a seat midway. He appeared indecisive regarding whose allegiance to adopt between them and me. Let us commence, Linda stated. Close the door. We are here to discuss the final terms regarding Sophia. Inheritance is being discussed, however. It has been interrupted due to my daughter's irrational behavior. I inadvertently hit a button on the remote control. We were here to watch something. And the lights darkened, affecting Grandma. Sophia's visage materialized on the wall screen, magnified significantly. If you are viewing this, she said, it signifies that my family has performed precisely as I anticipated. There is no obligation to heed this. Sit down. Linda said. Regarding the 50% charity, the clause triggers instantly as my mother reclines into her chair. Seething at Nina. Sophia's tape. I have observed you control and exploit your own child. Just as you attempted to do with me. Did you believe I was unaware of the credit cards, the fabricated emergencies, and the incessant demands for exploitation? Edmund extended his hand towards Nark, but she withdrew, and Edmund approached Sophia. Your voice became resolute. Facilitating your wife's machinations while simultaneously engaging in your own. Squandering your daughter's benevolence through deceit regarding medical situations. Treating her as if she were your personal bank constitutes defamation. Edmund murmured. Every word I said is recorded. Sophia continued, as though foreseeing his reaction. Every loan, every deception, and every manipulation. Now, my esteemed family. The screen transitioned to display a succession of documents. The inheritance has been established in an irrevocable trust, with Valerie as the sole beneficiary with stringent limitations that prohibit any family member from obtaining the assets under any circumstances. Nina asserted that challenging these requirements will lead to automatic charitable gifts. Get to the point. The issue is that I have not completed Sophia's face. Valerie. My dear. Please open the envelope that Linda just gave you. I have broken it. The seal extracted a solitary document and read it aloud. As ordered by Linda, I, Sophia Olson, now declares that, in addition to the financial inheritance, any controlling shares in Harvey Industries will be transferred to Valerie Harvey, effective immediately. Nina's cry was lightly audible. 3 stories below the company. You are transferring ownership of your father's company to her. The same company that you and Edmund possess. Jasper finally articulated. The systemic destruction caused by your mismanagement and embezzlement. Is it true? Have you been embezzling from the company? Certainly not. Edmund, he objected. Although his expression conveyed an alternative narrative, the evidence is all present. Linda stated, distributing folders, unauthorized transfers, and fraudulent reports are occurring. Why you have exhibited such desperation became clear to me. The inheritance was not solely about Grandma's finances but more a necessity for your obligations. Clarify your activities at the organization. As you do not comprehend, she implored. Our composure is deteriorating due to financial commitments, such as your gambling bills. Jasper inquired about Edmund or their mother's shopping addiction. Jasper. Nina, he gasped. How dare you? I said. How dare I? I am merely stating the truth. He shifted his chair closer. I am no longer willing to cover for any of you. Linda has said that Valerie has full responsibility. The corporate credit cards or accounts associated with Harvey Industries that you have access to have been frozen. Edmund faltered. I cannot do this. I am the CEO. Not anymore. I replied as I stepped up. The resignation letter is located in that folder. Please sign it or prepare for an internal audit that may result in criminal prosecution. Linda swiftly removed the folders. This matter is not concluded, she growled. We will fight this, then 50% will be donated to charity. I reminded her, and the corporation records were sent to the SEC. And the struggle appeared to dissipate from her abruptly. Edmund merely gazed at his hand trembling. Dad signed the resignation paper. It's over, Jasper murmured solemnly. Edmund signed his name as Sophia's voice resonated in the room one final time. Remember, Nina, you instructed Valerie. Everything she understands about familial loyalty, and Edmund illustrates precisely the consequences of broken trust mistreated. Regard this as her graduation from your master class. Inni have obtained the signed resignation letter. Linda will communicate regarding transitional arrangements at this moment. I believe we have concluded our discussion here. Valerie, Nina remarked as I approached the door. I turned around one final time. Indeed. You are still my parents. The most sorrowful aspect of this situation is that you might have simply been my parents. Yet you opted to assume a completely different role. The door is closed. Departing time. I left them with nothing but the resonance of Sophia's last utterances and the debris of their own making. Illuminated by the moth-ruined spindoshra, the windows of my grandmother Harvey. Antiquated office at Harvey. I occupied her chair, my fingertips along the weathered leather armrests, recalling how Mom permitted me to spin in it during my childhood visits. A knock at the door stopped my contemplation. Jasper entered, holding 2 coffee cups. Believing you could require this initially during the board meeting, I expressed my gratitude while accepting the cup. Observing how markedly different he appeared attired in a formal suit rather than his customary chef's whites, he prepared for your new position as head of corporate social responsibility, he smiled. Never anticipating expressing this. But it indeed feels appropriate and improved. Been managing unsuccessful eateries using father's embezzled funds. About his seated position, seated opposite from me. I was oblivious to the true origin of that money. I ought to have inquired further. My phone. I received an SMS stating that your father is in the hospital. Please call. Let me guess, Jasper remarked that. Upon observing my look. My mother is attempting the medical emergency ruse. Once more I informed him that Dad is hospitalized at the Golden Nugget. I observed his credit card alert this morning. You still retain access to it. We should monitor the alarms related to the cards. He paused and said, have you? I received information from Linda that she has completed the processing of their termination paperwork and all corporate assets have been retrieved. Retrieved an email indicating that Mom attempted to vacate the corporate residence before security's intervention. Nina. Jasper arrived, shaking his head, and remarked, I have always pondered why Grandma Sophia invested some time instructing you about the firm. Now I see that she understood their operations long before we acted. I rose and approached the window. The question remains, what shall we do? Miss Harvey, my assistant, announced via the intercom that the board members are prepared. I responded affirmatively, adjusting my jacket. The boardroom rapidly filled with elderly gentlemen in costly attire. Everyone was curious about what this 29-year-old woman would do with their firm. I noted their expressions. I began standing at the head of the table, receiving the same contemptuous stares from Nina and Edmund that they used to direct at me in the morning. Many of you collaborated with my father and grandma. Now, we will discuss some matters I navigated through my presentation detailing the new route for Harvey Industries. Ethical business practices, employee profit-sharing policies, and community investment were evident in each slide. Initial skepticism transformed into interest. And ultimately I determined that we are establishing the Sophia Olsen Foundation for Financial Literacy and Family Counseling. 20% of our annual profits will finance initiatives aimed at assisting families in breaking cycles. During the talk on financial abuse, Jasper drew my attention in the room. I nodded in approval as my phone buzzed again. This time from Reagan. They're here. I must address the board. There is a matter I need to attend to personally in the lobby. Edmund engaged in a dispute with security. They appeared diminished in stature, somehow lesser, intimidated. I instructed the guards to let them in as Valère advanced swiftly. You are being rational, cease. I raised my hand. I am not altering my decision. I am providing you with funds. I am not retracting any judgments. Therefore, why permit our involvement? Edmund demanded to provide you with these. I presented each of them an envelope with information regarding the foundation will provide comprehensive coverage for gambling addiction support groups and financial counseling services. Nina exclaimed, "We do not require charity," asserting that genuine assistance is necessary. I retreated at that moment. You are prepared to receive the call. Until then, there is nothing to discuss. Edmund attempted to invoke guilt one further time by stating that you would forsake your own parents. No. Dad. I am attempting to save them from their own actions. I have decided to relinquish the decision in my office. Jasper awaited Reagan, who had entered during that time. Reagan inquired about the confrontation. And as anticipated, I retrieved a framed item. A photograph from my desk. Not the vintage family image, but a recent one of myself with Reagan and Jasper at the beach. But for the first time, I feel like I made the correct decision. Grandma Sophia would be proud, Jasper remarked. Speaking of which, I opened. She retrieved 3 champagne flutes from my desk drawer and left this bottle for today as we toasted. I surveyed my chosen family, my brother, who had returned, and my best friend, who remained, and the legacy of a grandmother who imparted that at times the most profound love necessitates stating. Sophia Reagan declined, raising her glass to freedom, while Jasper contributed to new beginnings, having completed the task. I observed Nina and Edmund exit the building via the window as we began to compose our own narratives, envelopes still in hand. Perhaps one day they will comprehend. Or perhaps they will not. However, for the first time in my life, their decisions were no longer my responsibility to endure.